Pick Up the Six is sponsored by Mud Gear. Mud Gear serves the unleashed with gear for the modern hybrid athlete that's made tougher. They've created strong, functional performance gear like their performance shirts, shorts, and socks. I wear Mud Gear on the regular. Whether it's for a road race, an obstacle adventure, or a ruck, Mud Gear can help you gear up for extreme performance. Go to mudgear.com, use the code PUT6, and save 15% off today.
Welcome to F3, Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith, where men come together for something more than just a workout. Our core principles define us: free of charge, open to all men, held outdoors, peer-led, and end in a circle of trust. Whether you want to run, lift heavy things, or focus on bodyweight exercises, F3 has over 4,000 workouts available worldwide. Join us, experience the camaraderie, the challenge, and the transformation of F3, where men can get right so that they can lead right.
What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Pick Up the Six. Brian Jodas here with you, and grateful that you are carving out some time to unite with us through service, purpose, and impact. Shout out to my F3 bros, rocking the F3T if you're watching as we stream across Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and this show is interactive. So if you're watching us live in real time on this Friday afternoon, get on those social media channels and engage, interact with the show, right? You can comment. You can ask questions. Got a great guest, Craig Hannum, formerly of the United States Army, now of really just doing a lot, man, doing a lot in this space to help in suicide prevention, mental health, specifically for men. And Craig and I got united here a few months ago. We're going to share our story, how we came together. But he's doing amazing things through the toughest topic, right? Talking about something that is hard to talk about. And also helping people and helping guys listening get away from that one thing we can't undo, right? That one thing we can't come back from, right? And so we're going to have a great conversation with him today. And man, pumped for you guys on this Pick Up the Six audience. Maybe haven't met Craig before, maybe you have. But if not, you're going to get to meet a great American here that's doing incredible work. Before that, just a shout out and a thanks to the fine folks that make this show possible. My friends at Mud Gear have been with us since day one. Mud Gear is making gear for the outdoor athlete, built tougher, right? And there's this big trend. Get outside, right? Get outside, get dirty, get active, get going, get a ruck on, get a run on, get a walk on, right? Whatever it takes. And so just thanks to the fine folks at Mud Gear for teaming up here with us at Pick Up the Six. Go to mudgear.com. Use that code PUT6 and you can save 15% off today. I am rocking Mud Gear shorts as we speak. Had them on in the gym this morning, so thanks to those guys as well. And of course, my friends at Momentous, all these supplement, health, and wellness products you need, they got you covered. LiveMomentous.com. Man, whether it's whey protein, creatine, D3, they got it all. I mean, really, they got it all. Go check them out. LiveMomentous.com. Code Brian J on that one. You can save some cash. So we got great partners who help make this thing happen, and they're helping you save, and they're aligned with what we're doing here, right? They're united through service, purpose, and impact, which has really been incredible partnerships, and grateful for them as well. Even got a little bit of that One Nation coffee over my shoulder. We got so much good stuff. Laser Llama. Find the folks at Laser Llama. They hooked me up with these hats. Outstanding. Some of the best in the business as well. All right, let's bring in my friend and guest, Craig Hannum. How many people on a weekly basis call you Greg?
Oh, all the time. My worst encounter with Greg was at a Starbucks a long time ago when I was in the healthcare industry, and I had this big, name badge right here. And, it was like my name was in 200 font. It was huge. And the young girl says, "Oh, what's your name?" I was like, "Craig." So she writes it on the cup and moves on with the rest of her life. And then they call my order and I pick it up and it was K-R-E-G-G.
K-R-E. I've never even seen that.
I was like,
I've never even seen that version.
And I'm with my peer group and they're just looking at me like, "What are you going to do?" I was like, I called the guy over. I said, "Hey man, do I look Norwegian to you?"
He's like, yeah, you'll do it. Yeah, you'll do it.
It says Krieg on it. And he's
Krieg.
Like,
all right, Krieg.
I was like, I don't know if she's having a rough day or whatever, but my name's literally right. That was my best encounter with Greg. But yeah, all the time. So when I go to a restaurant or whatever, and they say, "Can we get a name down for your for the wait list?" I'll always embarrass my wife because I'll say, "I'll just put down Darth Vader."
Darth Vader. Dude, by the way, when they have to say out Darth Vader, party of two,
Yeah,
Darth Vader, party of two, and you come walking in there, bum, 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 bum.
I take Vader very seriously.
I'm with it. I don't think I have any Darth Vader stuff here. I got Baby Yoda over there. I got BB-8 over there.
Oh, you want to see cool Yoda? Check this out.
We got a couple Star Wars things.
I got Yoda and Kermit.
You got Yoda and Kermit. So for those folks watching on the TV screen, whether you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, if you're watching the replay here, if you're on the podcast, flip over and check out those video versions. So you got Yoda and Kermit over there, and they're talking about it's not easy being green.
Exactly.
Come on, bro. Get you some. Couple of visionaries, really. Yoda and Kermit.
Definitely.
Kermit could have been dialed into the Force.
Yeah, I think he had to put up with freaking Miss Piggy forever.
No doubt. Ed checking in Showtime, stealing our friend Rubio's line, saying Showtime. And then Ed also pointing out Craig, not to be confused with Greg or Krieg, rocking a Def Leppard shirt. Looking good there. Big Def Leppard fan?
Oh, yeah.
Man. Do you remember the movie Joe Dirt? Did you ever see Dirt? Joe Dirt. Kid Rock says Def Leppard sucks. And I was like, come on, bro. Robbie. What a heel character. All-time heel character in a movie. Underrated. Kid Rock as Robbie in Joe Dirt. Underrated. What a heel, bro. He nailed it.
Absolutely. He had a very small role with a few lines, but he totally walked that.
Ain't nobody wants you around. So good. He's so good. Why don't you get some Weineken, some French fries? What you gonna do? Cry, sissy boy? That movie holds up, bro. If you haven't watched Joe Dirt in a while, guys, do it. Holds up.
It's a cult classic, man.
Holds up in a big way. Brother, for those watching and then heard from that intro, they can see, man, cross pistols behind you, task force warfighter, Army guy. Spent a lot of time specifically in the Army working on suicide prevention, program management. We're going to dig into all that. But before we do that, man, just give us what's the journey path, right? To get you in uniform, right? To get that hand raised and taking that oath to defend the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? What was that path for you?
Well, first I graduated, went to college on a fine arts scholarship, not for acting. I'm not a thespian. It was for a vocal and instrumental music, and it was only supposed to be a 2-year scholarship, and they gave me a third. So when that third year was finishing up, I joined, and I was friends with my recruiters. We played golf, go have a beer, stuff like that together, and they never pressured me. I said, hey, I want to do this journey first. I said, I will get there. So I just prepared myself mentally and physically because I knew it was going to be stressful. And then they called me up and said, hey, if you're ready to go, you can leave in 2 weeks. I was like, oh, man, let's go. I'm done. So joined in November 1995, went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
man.
Outside Lawton.
Yeah.
And
we spent my first 2 years right out of college, Wichita Falls, right outside of Shepherd Air Force Base. My dad was actually NJIP commander at Shepherd. So we know that, Wichita Falls, the Lawton area pretty well. It's Red River, man. Red River, Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, it was quite an experience, because survived winter in Oklahoma. Yeah. And I came from Arizona, Casa Grande, Arizona, which is just south of Phoenix. So there was no winter.
Right. Right.
And I get burst of this wind. It was out of control. So I did that.
Wind and ice, dude. Wind and ice, like never.
Oh, it was nuts. I remember sitting there getting ready to do the preliminary physical fitness test, and we had all gotten our uniforms, and we're just freezing. We're huddled together on these bleachers, and I'm hearing this sound in the back, in a distance. I was like, man, I know what thunder sounds like. That's weird thunder. And I said it out loud. Well, you're not allowed to talk out of turn in the military, especially in training. And this drill sergeant got up my fourth point of contact in the worst way, pulls me out of the bleachers, and just drilling me. And he's like, boy, that's the sound of King of Battle. That's artillery, you dumbass. And I was like, I didn't know. So I was like, cool. So that kind of stuck with me. I was like, oh my God, what did I sign up for?
Yeah.
And it was quite the journey. So I went from Fort Sill to Fort Stewart. So first I did field artillery reconnaissance, did that for a year and a half. And then my recruiters had reached out and said, hey, you're going to be approached about changing your job. And like, what do you really want to do? I said, well, I wanted to get into military police. That's what I really wanted. He says, well, congrats, you're able to. So I went from E1 to E4 in a year and a half.
Wow.
And went to military police school at Fort McClellan, Alabama. I was just telling Chastity the other day when I was talking to her, because she's from Alabama. I was like, oh, yeah, I did some time there. And she goes, well, where? I said, Fort McClellan. She goes, oh my God, that's crazy. So, small world. And then, boom, I'm overseas in Germany. And that was an adventure.
This is all left in 9/11, right?
Yeah.
Sort of on that on the other side, right? So you come in pre 9/11. That then happens. How does life shift for you post, one of the most infamous days in American history?
Yeah, that was the operational tempo was out of control. First, when we got attacked, every service member was called put in a stop loss situation, which meant you can't go anywhere, you can't get out. Even guys who were preparing to end their contract, within that month, week, whatever, they were locked down. Nobody could leave. And I had an offer from a local police department, actually a sheriff's office in Pima County. And I said, I want to drop that the stop loss and I want to re-enlist. I said, because I think think I'm going to be needed somewhere. And sure enough, we were.
Yeah.
First deployment to Iraq was in 2004.
What were you doing in those days? Because were you MP route at that point?
Yeah.
Right. Army or MP, right? Air Force, they're SPs. I always make sure I get that right so the general doesn't yell at me. So you're MP at that point, but then heading down range. What's that activity like?
Well, it was the schools and the train up first, going to the Special Reaction Team, which is SWAT school for the Army, and then the FBI SWAT school and all these other things. It was just, getting us trained we didn't know what the operational environment was going to be. So we were doing all kinds of crazy training. And then the deployment 0405 was, was eventful. Then I went back again in 08. And that's when I got hurt, got evacuated. I was actually in a wheelchair and I couldn't see or walk for about 3 months.
What happened?
We had incoming rounds and got hit in the back of the head with an external AC unit that was sitting outside a window when I was, darting across. And that was bad.
It got blown out. It got blown out of the window.
No, when we were running, I was running blind.
Oh shoot!
And I didn't have my helmet on at the time.
Oh no!
It was just one of those things. And at first, it knocked me out. And when I wake up, my guys are picking me up. I'm looking for my rifle, and they say, "Hey, man, you okay? You okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine, fine." But that night, we're doing a mission debrief, and the left side of my head was turning purple, and my ear started leaking. And a buddy that was sitting next to me said, "Hey, man, you don't look so good." He's like, why don't you get some rest? I was like, yeah, I'm feeling a little weird. And I woke up the next morning and everything was off. Down was up, left was right. The room was spinning. My vision would go from like a 12 o'clock view and it would rotate the entire room to 9 o'clock and then snap back over and over again. Yeah, so I was a train wreck. They sent me to the medics. Next thing you know, I'm on a helicopter. Next thing you know, I'm on a C-17 going to Germany to launch school. Then they sent me back to Fort Bliss, where I was stationed at the time. And it took a toll. Yeah. It took me another 6 months to learn how to walk again. And the Army said, "Hey, we're going to medically retire you." I was like, "No, you're not. I'm not done." I said, "You're out of your mind." And I stayed with it and went back to Fort Huachuca in 2009. And that's where I retired in 2015. And it was a lot. There was a lot going on, and I don't miss the violence, because it is a professional violence. I miss the guys. I miss the camaraderie, especially coming into a weekend like this. Because we did a lot of Memorial Day ceremonies. Yeah, we do. And, I've heard that. We've heard that from a lot of friends and guys that wore the uniform, just missing that part of the element, right? Just being around the group, being around the team for that standpoint. He's Craig Hannum. I'm Brian Jodas. You're listening to Pick Up the Six. Man, we got united through this joint effort to really try to help save men's lives through NGBN. That has now subsided, but what has been the positive benefit of that is we've been able to come together, right? We got a group of highly motivated, mission-driven individuals that are going to continue to do that kind of work, even if we fly it under a different banner. That's how Craig and I got introduced. This weekend is, right? It is a Friday as we roll into a 3-day weekend where it is Memorial Day. And obviously we take a lot of pause and we'll take a lot of time on Monday throughout the course of the weekend, honestly, throughout the entire year to remember those. But it is worth kind of reminding, my audience doesn't need reminding, but it's different, right? Monday's different than Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a great day to celebrate those who wear and have worn the uniform, but Monday's about those who didn't come home, right? Monday's about those who have fallen in the line of duty, right? Those who have paid the ultimate price, made the ultimate sacrifice, have left it all out there for our freedom. And so we just take some extra time this weekend and we think about the folks that have done that. And quite frankly, I would encourage you, listening audience, if you're new to this space with us,
Go back and look through the archives, man. We've had some outstanding, powerful, and emotional conversations with folks like Dan Murphy, father to Lieutenant Michael Murphy. So when you do the Murph on Monday, like hundreds of thousands of people will, right? You can listen to Dan Murphy's story, or we got to talk to these two brothers whose father did all of the grave building, construction, maintenance across Europe during World War II, right?
Wow.
Or then we've talked to folks like John Quartz, who tragically at a very young age lost his father, Teak, as the first, if not one of the first, I think the first casualty of Desert Storm, flying an F-15, right, over Iraq and Kuwait. And so, we take a lot of time this weekend, and I know, brother, for you, right, having worn the uniform, having friends that I would assume have made that ultimate sacrifice.
Yep.
This weekend's got a little extra meaning for sure, and it's not just about grilling out and barbecuing on Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially the 182 people I lost to suicide in that 20-year career. So you can't forget that, because it's impactful. I was asked the other day when I was doing a meet and greet for the principal of the local high school that I'm going to teach on June 3rd, and he's a veteran as well, and we kind of talked about it. And when I told him about, he said, "How'd you get in this business?" I said, "Well, as soon as I retired, I went into the program position, got offered that job, did it for 4 years." And, I told him, I said, "It's more because I lost 182 people to suicide." He just gave me this blank stare. It's more than we lost in combat. And he's like, "Why do you hold on to that number?" Now, I say the same thing to every single person that asks me that, because they think it's morbid, and I get it. And I said, because I don't want to add to it.
Dude, can I tell you something I just got freaking chills, bro. You don't know this. I'm going to tell you this for the first time, and I'm just doing the math in my head because I was working on our show graphics for this episode. Do you know what episode number this is of Pick Up the Six?
Don't tell me it's 182.
I'm not shitting you, bro. It's 182.
Holy crap. Okay. We got to take a minute.
What the fuck?
Oh, shit. This just got real. Hold on, man.
I was working on pre-show graphics. Our last show was 181, and you'll be 182.
Oh, man.
Are you serious?
Wow. Yeah. 182 people to suicide in 20 plus years. And
guys that you knew.
Guys I knew,
yeah.
Guys I responded to as a military police officer to try to save their life.
Holy cow, man. If you don't believe we're connected to something bigger than all of us and that there's work being had on our behalf, I mean, that's just.
Yeah. I was up in Canada, and I was talking with Daryl McAvina, and he's the guy that owns Performance Freight Management. He's a sponsor for Chevy Nasty Show.
Yeah.
And
great guys.
Oh,
Chevy
yeah.
and Nasty doing amazing work. They host a show called The Ride. Go check them out. Two big burly football players from Canada.
Are beasts.
Outstanding humans. Outstanding humans too.
Yeah, when I reached my hand out, because we did that mental health movie night for men.
Yeah.
And I put my hand up to shake it, and they just wrapped me up in this bear hug, and I was like, "I can't breathe, and I like your cologne because I'm that close to you."
Right.
But the Daryl McAvina, I stayed on his ranch. I stayed in one of his cabins, and we were just talking with him and his wife Amanda. They are fantastic people. I mean, the hospitality of Alberta, Canada it's unmatched.
Yeah, good peeps.
And we're talking
the
about
leadership in Canada, a little nutty. Canadians though, solid.
Yeah, and we're just talking about this thing that I do, and Amanda had asked me, she goes, "Well, why this?" I was like, "Because it can be prevented. It is 100% preventable. There's nothing more demoralizing than losing somebody to suicide. Yeah. It's going to leave you feeling empty. You're going to have guilt. What did I miss? Or why? Why would you do this?" And I was asked, and I was on the Doc and Chef show the other day, and the question came up from Jim Scarano.
Mm-hmm. And Jim who lost his brother to this. Yep.
Yeah, he said, "Do you think suicide is selfish?" And I actually have that topic in my training, because it comes up. People will say, it's a very selfish act.
Yeah.
Or some people say, no, it's not. And I'll say, you know what? It depends. It depends how it affects you. And you can go back and forth with that. It's okay. And before I could finish my sentence, Doc, Isabel's just a wonderful lady. Those guys are just really, really great people down there in New Zealand.
Yep.
And, the Doc and Chef show is just awesome. But she said, who doesn't think it's selfish? And I was like, who? And she goes, the person who's feeling it. I said, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And her being a survivor, and when she talks openly about it, that is so refreshing, because That's what I'm trying to get people to do. Just have a conversation.
That's right. Adam Cooper checking in with that simple but powerful moniker, man, never quit.
I won't.
Right. And Adam is a great friend, and he's been dedicated to this effort as well. If you guys remember from our Pick Up the Six journeys, he was a part of that 22-hour workout in Aiken, South Carolina a year ago. He just did another one recently. Him and his wife Cora did it, where they're just laying a lot on the line. He's former Marine, and so built for this as well. Adam, good to hear you, man, and good to see you checking in here, brother. Thanks for joining us for a little bit. Craig Hannum, Brian Jodas here. You're watching Pick Up the Six, brother. So at some point, right? So MP route, right? We've alluded to the amount of work you've done sort of in suicide awareness, prevention. I mean, you've been in the trenches of this battle against the thing that happens to men predominantly, but men and women, but in your space, probably a lot of men in and around the military. Do you start getting into that when you're officially in uniform, or is that something you're doing? Tell me that story a little bit about how you get into literally combating this thing, right, with service members who are in modes of crisis.
Yeah, it was in 2010, and my position, I was called the operations sergeant for all law enforcement activities. So, you do a lot of joint deals, you work with other agencies, a lot of training, and we were combating illegal immigration, battling the cartels, because Fort Huachuca is just about 10 miles north of the border.
Right there in Arizona, right?
Yeah, gorgeous area. It's called the high desert.
Beautiful. I think one of my best friends, I think his grandfather, Eugene Renzi, Major General Eugene Renzi, was a former base commander at Fort Huachuca, if memory serves correct. Shout out to big Eugene Renzi, hell of an American, wore the 2 stars for the United States Army. His grandson, Ron Renzi, oldest of 12, one of my best friends. So shout out to those guys for sure.
Very cool. Yeah, so it was 2010, and we were responding to suicides like nobody's business.
Oh yeah, bro. I mean, you're in the throes of GWAT. Like, guys are coming back with so much stuff. It's so hard to handle it. And that's, this will be like, because I want you to finish out, because you alluded to this before, especially with it being around Memorial Day. Gold stars wave in the windows of families across America for losing a loved one in combat.
Yeah.
But when a loved one comes home and battles with this thing internally and then ultimately takes their own life, I know it's not the same, but it is. We're losing them that way too, and it can't be overlooked, I guess is my point.
It can't be. And the way we handled it was horrible, and I was guilty of it too.
Yeah.
When someone would come up on the radar saying, "Hey, I'm feeling suicidal," to get out of a deployment, I was jaded. I was like, "Hey, I ain't got time for this crap."
Was it a lot of just, man, shake it off, you're fine,
Yeah,
hey,
rub some dirt on it, you'll feel better. You big sissy, and other adjectives that are just, we were horrible at it. We created and reinforced that stigma that hit so hard. It was 2012 when we lost the most people, almost 400 soldiers in 1 year. So, we're responding to all these things, and it was jacking up my guys. I'm like, what is happening here? So I'm looking around, I'm talking to commanders. Hey, is there a suicide prevention program? Oh yeah, there's mandatory training you do once a year. It's dry, it's pathetic. You'll get a dude that'll read word for word from the slides. It's just insane. So I was like, nah, that's not working. We need something else. And I approached a guy named Kevin Mills and Lita Myers. They were the senior leadership of one of the mental health departments, specifically substance abuse and all that jazz. And I approached them. I said, hey, I need help. I said, I need to create something. They said, okay, we'll back you up. So I wrote up a policy letter. They endorsed it, gave it to the commanding general. General endorsed it. He goes, all right, go forth, do great things. And we started responding more to mental health distress and kind of changing the paradigm, and then taking away that one word that I never use when I teach classes is committed. And people say, well, why do you want to change the language? I said, no, not change the language. It's not criminal. Rapists commit rape and murderers commit murder. Nobody commits suicide. So get rid of that word, because that connotation of commit is synonymous with a criminal act. And that's how we were treating it. It was pathetic. We were just not doing it right.
Yeah.
And I went hard and heavy on that. And then when 2012 hit, it wasn't any easier. I switched jobs. I became the detachment sergeant for a law enforcement unit. So I'm a part of a command team now. And we just kept reinforcing training and telling people, hey, I would do huddles at the end of every incident, whether it was a car accident, if it was a fatality, or shots fired, whatever it might be. I'd bring everybody together and we would huddle. And I would ask, what did you see? Because it's interesting when you get, say, 5, 6 people in the exact same incident.
Varies, right?
And they see it differently. You know, so I was picking up this wisdom, if you will. And I'd make each dude say, hey, tell me what you saw. What did you do? Oh, I was doing chest compressions for 10.5 minutes. Okay, good job. You know, because you got a pulse. Finally, well done. I was pulling the other body out of the car. I did this. I was blocking traffic. Oh, I was bringing the helicopter in. You know, all these things. And then everybody hears that, and that was actually reinforcing camaraderie, because we're realizing that, okay, man, we were just thrown in a very extraordinary situation that no one's going to know about, because the military is very private. We don't release what happens on the base to anybody. You know, and I'll tell stories about what happens at Fort Huachuca, and people are like, oh, that doesn't happen. I was like, it did. You know, it did. I remember signing hundreds of non-disclosure agreements. So I keep going on, and my retirement gets approved. And that was October 2014 when it was official that, hey, by next November, you're going to be done. Well done. You know, you graduated. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
And those same people, Kevin and Lita, they called me to their office. And it was like the day of. He's like, hey, I heard your retirement got approved. I'm thinking, how would you know, man? He's like, oh, I'm connected. He's like, I want to offer you a job. He's like, I want you to take over the suicide prevention program as the program manager. I was like, are you sure? I said, because usually when I get called to a scene, it's to do some violent stuff. He's like, nope, you're perfect. And I literally, my transition was seamless, brother. Friday at 1300, I ring the bell. Monday, I'm in a suit.
Right in.
It really was seamless. It was good. It was a benefit, and it had some drawbacks, because now I'm in a position of influence, not a position of authority.
Yeah.
So instead of saying do this, do that, and here's why, it's, hey, here's what I think we should do. Here's how I think we should approach this. You know, so I did that for 4 years, and in truth, those 4 years are probably more stressful than my 20 years in uniform, because I changed everything.
Yeah. Well, you're building out a whole program, right?
Oh yeah. So in the guy who was in the position, who was retiring, you know, I was doing a little right seat, left seat kind of training, and I walked in to one of his classes. It was 2.5 hours long, and it was beyond dry. And I'm looking at the crowd, and there's maybe 100, 150 people in there, and it was all new arrivals to Fort Huachuca and Army civilians. Okay, and it was on a Wednesday, and it was just during in-processing day. And he's going through it. He's got this monotone voice that just stays in one, you know, frequency, if you will. And then he says, okay, let's take a break halfway through. And I was like, oh man, no kidding. These guys are falling asleep. Yeah, the break wasn't for them. It was for him. He takes off, goes get some coffee. But before he does that, he breaks this group up into 2 groups, puts them in a circle. And his only instructions were talk about suicide. And he walks out. And I was like, oh, you've got to be freaking kidding me. So I'm sitting there looking at one group, and there's a full bird colonel, okay, and sitting there. And across from him is a brand new private. Okay, so I say, hey, and the colonel's like, all right, let's talk about suicide. He's knife handing. He's doing this. He's like, it's bad. It's weakness. Don't you dare.
And he's the only one talking, right?
Yeah, in that group. The other group is kind of, you know, mulling around and just say, hey, how you doing? Have you ever been here before? What do you do here? Is there any activities? And I said, sir, excuse me, 1 second. He got pissed. He's like, are you interrupting me? I was like, yeah. I said, if your ego has low self-esteem, I'm going to do it again. I was like, this is wrong. I looked at the kid and I said, can I ask you a question? And I could see his micro expressions, his mannerisms. He was very uncomfortable. His knees are dancing, and he's fiddling around with his fingers, and he's just looking down, not making eye contact with anybody. I walked up to him, I knelt down. I said, hey, brother. He's like, yes, sir. I said, no, my name is Craig. I said, who'd you lose to suicide? He's like, my aunt. I said, okay. Are you going to talk about it openly with that dude sitting across from you? He's like, no, because that's my brigade commander. He was the incoming brigade commander. And I looked at him. I was like, see the problem? And he just kind of put his head down. He goes, I apologize, son.
Yeah. Got
up, shook his hand. I said, everybody, go back to your seats. Just go back to your seats. I called the dude back in. I was like, finish your class. And he was driving with me in my truck. Go back to the office. And he was kind of cleaning his stuff out. I was like, hey, man, thank you for your service. Congratulations on your retirement. Get your crap out of here by close of business. I was like, you're done. So he complains to my boss at the time, Kevin. And Kevin's like, you are done. Get out of there. It's official. So we have a year of probation as a new Army civilian. That's intimidating, because if you even fart in the wrong direction, they could be like, you're done.
Yeah.
So, you know, I took that year to build something that was going to work. It took that long to actually find the right delivery method that I still use today, to include the video at the end, which is major. You know, it's like when we did that April 6th kickoff, I was telling that dude that that shall remain nameless, hey man, this isn't supposed to be 2 hours.
Yeah. It's got to be more interactive. It's got to be more about that. I want to talk more about what you do, right? How you deliver this important message, the tangible things you give, because I think our audience can be like, we need Craig to get here. Let's take a quick break, right? Thanks some of the folks who'll make the show possible. We'll be right back. It's Craig Hannum. I'm Brian Jodas. You're watching Pick Up the Six. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Welcome to F3, Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith, where men come together for something more than just a workout. Our core principles define us: free of charge, open to all men, held outdoors, peer-led, and end in a circle of trust. Whether you want to run, lift heavy things, or focus on bodyweight exercises, F3 has over 4,000 workouts available worldwide. Join us, experience the camaraderie, the challenge, and the transformation of F3, where men can get right so that they can lead right.
Hi, Joel Maurer, founder of Dink Ninjas. Dink Ninjas was dreamed up and started right here in Austin, Texas, a dynamic pickleball community. We arm pickleballers with the paddles, apparel, and accessories to dink like a ninja. Dink Ninjas is dedicated to supporting mental health awareness and cancer research. Shop our full lineup at dinkninjas.com.
Are you searching for connection? Do you struggle with loneliness? There is hope. We are F3, Fitness, Fellowship, Faith. Our mission is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for men for the invigoration of male community leadership. We have 5 core principles.
Free of charge, open to all men, held outdoors, rain or shine, peer-led, and it ends in a circle of trust.
Go to f3nation.com.
You know who has locked shields on this mission to save men, accelerate men's lives? Of course, it's the guys at F3. F3nation.com. Find a workout near you. Find the group near you. Get embedded. With that, it can change your life. It has mine. Or if there isn't one, get with those guys. They can help you get one set up, and you can get around other like-minded men that are looking to accelerate and do really good work. More with our conversation with Craig Hannum here in a matter of moments, because we're going to talk about sort of the tangible things he's teaching in these courses. Thanks once again to our friends at Mudgear. Go to mudgear.com, code PUT6, save 50% off. Best socks in the business, great shorts, great durable workout tees. They got everything you need all under one roof. Mudgear.com, code PUT6, and save some cash. And livemomentous.com, code Brian J. Get all the supplement, nutritional wellness needs you've got. They got you covered. Livemomentous.com. Save some cash there too. I mean, come on, we're helping you out. And that's all good stuff as well. Let's bring Craig back in, my brother. Good to see you again. All right. So you've developed this program that you can then deliver to people. And really the best way for them to do it is for you to be there, right? To put them through this training session. So tell us what it's like, because I want our audience to be like, we need to get Craig out here. We need to get the toughest topic out here to be able to do that. So tell us a little bit about what that program's like. If they watched our united effort to equip on April 6th, they got to see some pieces of it. It was over a longer stretch, but what it sounds like you're saying is, hey, this thing's best condensed down a little bit to where we really can get into it too.
Absolutely, man. It's like 45 minutes long, and that's with people asking questions, and people always ask questions. That's how it's designed. It's designed to provoke thought. It's designed to make the person who is the skeptic that suicide's not preventable uncomfortable, to where they're going to ask a question. And I love those kind of people, the folks who truly, because you could tell when they ask a question that negates how it works, they're suffering. There's something going on there. They're jaded big time about this. They were affected personally. They don't like talking about it. That's my kind of audience. But it is specifically designed to teach people how to pick up on the subtle indicators of potential suicidal behavior, and just approach somebody and say, hey man, my name's Craig. Are you okay? And then explain why I'm asking that question. I say, hey, here's why I'm asking. You've been staring at this broccoli for a minute, and last time I checked, broccoli doesn't talk back. And people always say, how can you crack jokes when you're talking about suicide? Because that's how people are. It's human nature. Have you ever met anybody that doesn't want to laugh? I actually had a chaplain. He was the chief of chaplains at Huachuca. He says, hey, I didn't like your training. I was like, okay, chaplain, can you tell me why? He's like, well, you had people laughing. This is a very serious topic. I was like, I know, ironic, huh? He's like, so you're not going to change it? I was like, no, I don't work for you. I said, by the way, you're the problem. He's like, what? I said, aren't you a counselor by trade? You got your certification, license, all that jazz? He goes, well, yeah. I said, do you create a barrier to communication when folks come and talk to you? He just kind of looked at me and he puts his head down. He goes, okay. Well, I want to talk to your leadership. I was like, cool, they're in the back. So commanding general at the time, she was a 2-star general, Laura Potter. She's a 3-star now. To this day, she calls me her soldier. We've known each other for a minute. And then my director, Kevin Mills, was there. He walks up to me. He's like, hey, I didn't want to talk about his training. I didn't like the delivery method, this, and that, et cetera, et cetera. And this is like fall of 2019. No, it was August 2019. And what nobody knew, because I didn't say it because I just do my job. And people say, hey man, you got this award? Yeah, I did. Well, wow, that's what, no, it's just, I just do my job. Shake my hand, pat me on the back. Thank you. Go out and do great things. Well, he didn't know that that's when I was notified and selected that I was the Army Civilian of the Year for 2019. You know, competing over 300,000 people. And I didn't realize how vast it was. And one, I didn't even know I got nominated when I got the call. So I get the call first, and the second call was to General Potter. So they were sitting there with my boss watching my class, and he walks up and says, I didn't like his training. I didn't like the delivery method, et cetera, et cetera. And the general's kind of looking at him. She's a 2-star general. He's a lieutenant colonel. He's like, no, ma'am, he's got these guys laughing. It's a serious topic. It needs to stay serious, et cetera, et cetera. She's like, yeah, no. And Chaplain.
Well, but so like, yeah, it's a serious topic, but if you don't get them, you got to get that shield down. You got to get that vulnerability, right? Exactly. You got to get the guard down. And like, if we're already coming in knowing this is a serious topic, so it's already like walls up.
Yeah, because that's the stigma. Stigma creates that barrier to communication.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I'm tearing down. I'm like, no. I was like, and she looks and she goes, did you not see how engaged they were? You know, because it's mandatory training for Army civilians and soldiers. You got to do it once a year. It's painful. And depending on who teaches it. And she's like, no, it is the most engaging training I've ever seen. She goes, and what you don't know is apparently the Army thinks the same thing too. He's like, what do you mean? And she told him. He kind of looked at me and goes, oh, okay. So my director's like, any other comments that we're not going to listen to? And he basically walks out. And then when I had to give him his briefing, because he was chief of chaplains, and there's stuff I have to do. There's for all the commanders that show up, I have to give him a briefing on what the prevention team does. And I told him, I said, hey, don't forget to put yourself on the roster. He's like, what roster? So that thing that I started in 2010, once my year of probation was over, oh man, on day 366, I was pissing people off. I had policies that were signed that I sent out to everybody. The first department to give me heartache was mental health department. They said, you can't tell us that we need somebody on call. I was like, yes, I can. I was like, trust me, we have the budget for it. So my suicide response team was myself, a chaplain. He didn't like that. He goes, no, we're not on call. I was like, you're a soldier first, sir. You're on call 24/7.
Well, I mean, what do you mean you're not on call? If some guy is in crisis at 2 a.m, like, hey, can I get over to him at 9? Like, no, bro, there's going to be a bullet in his skull if you don't get moving. So get going.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
That's no different than a commander saying, hey, I have an open door policy by appointment only.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here.
Bullshit. So a lot of opposition until we had our first call out. And it was major. You got a young soldier there. He's armed with a pistol. I walk in. I was like, hey, do you know me? He's like, yeah, I've been through your classes, sir. I was like, okay, cool. You mind if I sit down? And got the gun from him, talked him down. He wanted to pray, so we prayed. And I'm walking out, and I've got a member from the mental health department, the chaplain, my risk reduction coordinator, a good friend of mine, Scott Hatfield. He and I served together in the Army. And sometimes a family advocate if there was like a domestic issue inside the house. Yeah. And when they saw me walk out and I'm holding this dude's gun, and they're just like, their mouths just dropped. I said, who do you want to talk to first? I said, you're going to get in the ambulance. I'm going to go with you. I said, because I got to get you evaluated at the ER. I said, but I got mental health here and the chaplain. He's like, well, can I talk to the chaplain first? I was like, cool. So he goes and talks to the chaplain. And that was another bridge I had to gap, was if someone's talking to a chaplain, they hold on to that confidentiality more than a mental health provider, especially Catholic chaplains.
For sure.
So what was the challenge was if I would show up and the kid would say,
you said especially Catholic chaplains?
Oh yeah.
You're used to that idea of confession and all that. Yeah.
All that jazz, right? So when I showed up, I'm talking to this kid. He's like, hey, Craig is the chaplain here. I was like, yeah, he's outside. Do you want to talk to him? He's like, yeah. I said, cool, but you got to give me that shotgun. He's
Yeah,
all right.
for sure.
So I take the shotgun. Chaplain goes in. He comes out. And I already knew he needed to go see mental health, okay? Or go to the ER. And he walks out and say, hey, chaplain, how we doing? He goes, I'm not going to tell you anything. I was like, what? So there was another change to the regulation that had to happen. And when I talked to the chief of chaplains of the U.S. Army, I said, hey, if a chaplain comes out and we're doing negotiations, and it's a safe place for the chaplain to go into, when he comes out, I need to know if that dude has to go to the ER or not. I said, so why can't we just have it to where they say, I'll ask the question, what do you think? And if he says, or she, I recommend he goes to the ER, or I don't think the ER is necessary at this time. You didn't say anything about what they talked about.
That's right.
You're just giving me
That's
the
right.
ammunition I need. So he's like, okay, I'll buy on a file. We'll do it. Let's go. Oh my God. That was the next, job or career field that was like, no, I'm not doing it. It violates my oath, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, no, you're a soldier first. Okay. Don't forget that. All right. You have a duty. And it was working. People would come out and say, hey, Craig, yeah, I recommend this guy go to the ER. Cool.
Wow.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So, you had to figure that out because it was never done before. And that's what drove me crazy. I'm like, people, the only constant in life is change.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right. So let me ask you this with the few minutes we have left,
Yeah.
because I also want folks to know how they can find you, get you involved in their life, bring you to their groups. How do you process you're on this side of this often heavy transaction. You're talking about walking into rooms where guys are armed,
Right.
Considering that, that's a pretty high stress environment. How does Craig Hannum process all this?
So I had to figure out some coping mechanisms. And when I was in the position, I would go talk to the wizard at least once a week. Dr. Lamaki, I think she's retired now. And that was something else the military was actually being proactive about, was making sure that some of these providers had a top secret clearance. So you could talk open.
For sure.
And, once a week I would go. I had to let it out. Kevin Mills, he was a great accountability partner. So I would vent on him. Music. When I'm en route, I'm playing music that's going to distract me. So Def Leppard, rock, all the good stuff. Motley Crue, Rush, my favorite. And people say, well, doesn't that amp you up? I'm like, no, it distracts me because I don't want to get inside my head on what am I walking into. And I get that question a lot when people say, hey, you're going to walk into a room where somebody's armed. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But I always tell people in the classes, you do what you think you're capable of. If you're not comfortable going inside that house and the guy's got a gun in his hand, don't.
Yeah.
Call 911.
Yeah.
Right, get the guys there, and then we started training everybody in mental health distress response. I remember one call out. I'll be quick with this. I show up, SWAT teams on the side of the house. They've got an incident command center, they got all these things. I get there. I'm like, what's going on? Well, listen. And I hear this guy screaming inside his house. I was like, hey, is he alone? Like, yeah, he's alone. I was like, so what's the crime? Why do you got the guys on the side of the wall getting ready to do an entry?
Right.
Well, do you hear him in there? And it was a rookie lieutenant. And I said, so all he's doing is screaming? He's like, yeah. I said, did you ask him why? Like, what the hell? What the fuck are you doing, man? So I walk in there. I was like, hey, brother. He goes, oh, hey, Craig, how you doing? I was like, why are you screaming? Well, I just got the worst call in the world. He lost a family member, and he's dealing with deployments and the stress, and he's in a command position, and he's freaking out. And he's just screaming because he's pissed.
Right.
So he and I walk out. I was like, are you suicidal? I got to ask him. He's like, no, man, I need to vent. I was like, you know what? Get in the truck. Let's go get a beer. He's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I look at everybody else and say, hey, we need to debrief him. I was like, you need to debrief yourself.
You should. If you just ask the question in the beginning, it doesn't have to become this big thing here.
And that's the whole point of the training is asking, are you okay?
That's right. That's right.
And you'd be surprised. And people are like, well, it's a complete stranger. No one wants to talk to a stranger. I was like, man, you'd be surprised.
Yep.
Because that dude who's in distress.
Sometimes that's all people want is somebody to talk to.
Just ask.
All right. So you have built an entire program around this. It is scalable. It is deliverable. It can be taken with you to fill in the name of the group, right? It is applicable to, I think, first of all, F3 guys, you guys should be considering in your region bringing Craig in. Bring Craig in. He'll work out with you in the morning, right? You guys could do it's almost like going through a grow ruck. You do a King Builder workout, then you go into grow school. You spend 3 hours learning, right? Consider that. So if you're F3 guys listening, I would definitely consider get with your regional leadership team, see if you can bring Craig in, right? And he's got different levels within which you can financially engage with him to make that happen.
Yep.
You can also send him an email, the toughest topic at outlook.com, probably best way for folks to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
They want to be able to do that. But then if you're also from another service group or even a business, I mean, just think about the scalability of what he can do in these few hours and being with your people. And then the follow-up that he does on the back end.
Yeah.
Right. So just tell people how they can get a hold of you, and who are you looking to partner with in this real critical work going forward?
Everybody. My key demographic is rural North America. So yeah, email me. My number's there too. I think you'll put it up when you get a second. Call me. We'll figure out how to get out there. I'm telling you guys, it's impactful. It's a simple 45 minutes to an hour. The video that I show at the end of it is what really resonates with people, because in that 4-minute video culminates everything we've been talking about. And all it's going to do is just give you a little bit more knowledge on what to pay attention for. And I would, especially parents, I would tell parents, this conversation is going to be harder than the birds and the bees talk. When we lost another kid here in the Valley, I get a call from a buddy of mine, Mark Arnott, and he's sad because he knew this kid, and they found him behind the wheel of his truck. And he's like, how do we stop this? I was like, I got to get the parents, man. Because rural North America, there's two constants with that. One, services are not very, they're limited. You have to make a drive, to get there. So there's not a whole lot of services, mental health, stuff like that. The other side effect of that is rural America is typically blue collar heavy workforce.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, guys with calloused hands, thick beards, they don't talk about feelings.
That's right.
So how are they going to get home at the dinner table and pick up on what's going on with their kid, with their son, their daughter? They don't have it. So I told the principal the other day, I said, here's how we do this. I said, we train your staff. So we have commonality of language. Then we get the kids in there. Every kid that's in the student body, fill up that auditorium for me. Then we do the same thing for the parents. And he's like, I like it.
Yep.
And then on the back end, I'm going to give guys 3 more weeks of scenario-based training that were based on actual events of a search and rescue team that was sent to Japan in 2011 to do search and rescue. And it wasn't search and rescue. It turned out to be body recovery. And they were there for 4 weeks, and it jacked them up when they got back. So I take that scenario, and so you get the training. Week 2, I'm going to give you a scenario. What do you see? And I'll ask very poignant questions. The 3rd week, all right, we're starting to see a decline in mental health readiness, et cetera, et cetera. The language is changing. What do you see? What would you do? What would you recommend? And then that last one is like, okay, they just got back, and they're nothing's going right. The guys who are married are not working out. The leaders they're just messed up mentally because they can't get these images out of their head. And Dave Parnell, retired fire chief from Detroit, said it best when he said, I wish my head could forget what my eyes have seen. And that's when I tell people that trauma does not age. Let's identify your triggers, because that's a good thing. And I'm open with that. And people say, well, don't tell me I have a post-traumatic stress disorder. Don't use the D word, because that signifies that I'm broken. No, it's not. I will teach you post-traumatic growth. Because if you have trauma, well done, you're alive. You survived. A 5-year-old can have trauma. And I'm very open about triggers. Mine is the smell of burning hair. And I will tell people that your emotional state at the time that you are exposed to your trigger will dictate how you react. So if I'm in a good mood, and say my wife and I are getting to go watch the Boston Red Sox beat up on the Seattle Mariners, which happens, it's great.
Thanks for not saying the Yankees. I appreciate that. I know you wanted to, but you're a good guy for letting that go.
That's another talk.
That's another time. We'll do that. We'll do that the next time.
So if she's curling her hair and all that jazz because we're getting ready to go out to the ballpark, and I get a whiff of the odor, I'm fine. I'm in a good mood, man. I'm not going to react in the way. But what if we're getting dressed for a funeral and the same thing happens? My emotional state is already compromised. So that's why I tell people your triggers and your exposure to your triggers are healthy. So you can stay in the proper mindset. And then if it hits you, talk openly. When the ghosts invade me every single night when I have dreams, we've got 3 tiers of a coping mechanism, if you will. She'll either rub my arm, rub my leg, and I'll wake up and she's like, hey, you're fine. I can roll over, go back to sleep. Or, hey, it was kind of major. It's still in my head. I can still smell stuff. Sometimes you think stuff's on your hands, and I'll go upstairs and get a bowl of cereal, watch some Seinfeld. And then the third part, if it's really bad, I'll say, hey, I got to go for a drive. And I just get in my truck, listen to some music, and I just drive in the night. And there's no pressure. There's no judgment. And when I get back, she's fine. Everything's okay. All she'll say is just be safe. Watch out for the crazies. Yeah, you got it. And then if it takes all day for me to come to her and say, hey, here was the dream, I'll tell her just a key point. Like I'll say, the little boy. It's like, oh man. Or Sergeant Lance. She knows what that means. Or, hey, it was the rollover. Whatever it is. Or it could be a law enforcement, thing. But you got to talk openly about it because that's not weakness.
Yeah.
No, I don't get into the grotesque details. That's not necessary. But you have to be able to open up about it.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, brother, if I can get soldiers to open up, guys who will not talk because they're worried about their security clearance, they're worried about if they're in a leadership position, they're worried about all these assumptions that they create in their mind. And I talk about that for at least 5 to 6 minutes in the training about assumptions and how dangerous they are. If I can get those guys to talk, I can get blue collar, rural North America to open up and identify what's going on with their son before he does something that he can't walk away from.
No doubt.
No doubt. It's the only preventable death out there, man.
That's right. That's right. What a conversation, man. Craig Hannum, guys, he's the president of The Toughest Topic, former Army guy. Man, incredible conversation about the power of this work that you're doing. Guys, go find him, connect with him on LinkedIn, find him on those other platforms. Put that email address. Let me throw it back up there just one more time.
Isn't it great?
Topic at outlook.com.
Like we were saying in the beginning, how, our former coalition, if you will, once everything was like, we're done with that. Isn't it amazing that all of us came together literally inside of a 96-hour period and said, we have to.
Mission doesn't end. Yeah.
Mission doesn't. And every single dude
mission first
they have it's so diverse.
Yeah.
But it has one underlying, purpose: to take care of guys those who love them and say, hey, man, we can help. I assure you.
That's right, brother. It's been a blast. We'll do this again soon. Okay.
All right, brother.
Guys, go check him out. Craig Hannum. Thanks, bro.
Thanks, man. Later.
See you. Man, outstanding. What a blessing to know him, right? What a great blessing to be united with our shields locked right on this thing. And if your group, organization, brand, company, club is interested in getting this kind of real tangible training to combat this thing, then please go do it. Get in touch with Craig and reach out to me if you need, and we'll get you guys linked up and make all that happen. Before we go, I'm going to drop a little scripture on you, as we're apt to do, because it is apropos. It's one of my favorites because it speaks to a lot of things we do here, but I think it specifically speaks to this idea of men's mental health. And I'm talking to the guys, but also just across the board. And this idea of suffering in silence. And it's 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 8 through 10. It's one of my favorites because it's such an empowering piece. Be sober, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking one to devour. Now, here's my favorite part. Resist him, firm in your faith, knowing that the same experience of suffering is required of your brotherhood throughout the world. You are not alone. The enemy will come in and gain a foothold with any piece he can grasp for. Resist him because you're not alone and others have your back. And we got your 6 here forever and always. I'll see you next time.